page number 64. Pakathana Kamma Panchaka, I name it, not Chatukka. I name it as Panchaka. 5. Panchaka. Yes, correct. Panchaka. Because normally you will find this Chatukka. Right? I make it Panchaka because of the Lokuttara Kamma. So this shows about this is a very huge topic actually. About the Kammas, their Vipaka results, the place the results are given, and so the Kamma, Vipaka, and the place of their results. So I'm planning to extend this lecture for the next week also, because in one sutta, Buddha mentioned, amongst the Deva realm, Devas are seen, humans are seen, hell beings, Petas are seen, because of this Kamma. So when we talk about the Kamma, it also connects with the Bhumi, that the beings are born. Bhumi means doesn't mean the world. We are talking here mainly about the being itself. So all the beings are products of Kamma. Kamma Yoni, Kamma Bandhu. They are relative. They have Kamma as their relatives. They are all products produced by Kamma. They are coming out of like Kamma is the production of a being. Production of a Kamma is a being. So when we say about the place where the Kamma gives results, we also have to talk about the Bhumi and the beings and types of the beings, and how the Kamma is affecting this life. So sometimes we may think, according to the tradition, there is some person called a being and Kamma affects it. No. The being itself is a production of Kamma according to the teachings. So that's why we normally say the existence should be cut off. When we want to cut off the existence, what we do is we cut off the Kamma. To cut off the Kamma, some ascetics taught by not accumulating new Kammas, by giving lots of suffering to the body, we will be able to exhaust our past Kamma. But the Buddha found Kamma has another reason, that is craving. Because of craving, we do perform certain actions. But another specific reason that also influences the Kamma and also the craving, very most basic fundamental, ignorance. Since we are ignorant about this life, about this world, about the pleasures, we are striving, so we make efforts. So Kamma is related to Tanha and Avidya. And another very basic emotion is the idea of I, Ditthi or Asmimana. So Buddha mentions these three are the very basic defilements that makes us to wander in samsara: ignorance, craving, and the wrong view. So because of these three, we accumulate Kammas. Then because of a Kamma, a being is born. So if the life of a being is full of suffering, if it is non-self, it is impermanent. So what the Buddha suggests is, if there is no one to be considered as you or I, what is the purpose of wandering in this samsara again and again as productions of Kamma? So what we have to do is to remove the Kamma. Kamma can't be removed by giving suffering to the body through self-mortification. It has to be removed by removing its causes, that is craving and ignorance. So to remove the ignorance, which is the basic fundamental reason for the existence, you have to develop the wisdom, enlightenment. So that is why Buddha preached a path which supports the final enlightenment, the understanding. Enlightenment is the wisdom. It needs the support of a concentration. To gain concentration, you should have a proper conduct. So the path was aimed towards removing ignorance. The final achievement of the path is the wisdom. Wisdom is backed by concentration. It needs the support of sila, good conduct. Concentration would not arise automatically. For that, you should have mindfulness, sati. For that, they are supportive to concentration. And also you should have effort, constant effort. Then only you will be able to be a composed person. So for that, we should restrain our verbal, physical actions and livelihoods. So that is the sila. And also in the wisdom part, there should be proper thinking, like thinking in various ways, analytical studies, analytical thinking should be involved. So vitak samma sankappa also is found. So these are the path which leads for the final enlightenment. Enlightenment would remove ignorance. When ignorance is not there, craving cannot sustain. When ignorance and craving are not more, karma will not be, new karmas will not be done, and the past karmas will not have the efficacy to produce a new life. Then the existence will be lost, will be removed, will be stopped. So we should, but the purpose of this, one purpose of this studying of karma is not just to study how the world works. This is the purpose is to get rid of the suffering of the samsara. For that, a very basic fundamental that we should keep in our mind is, it is not that there is a being and karma affects the being. Being itself is a product of karma. So that is a very important concept, idea, notion that we should keep in our mind. There are lots of proofs for this given by the Buddha. So very fundamental teaching. I'll explain this in a further, most probably next week, if I'm able to give a lecture. So it's the devas, humans, animals, petas, all these creatures are seen as a result of good and bad karmas. So when we talk about the pakarthana karma, chatukka or panchaka, it is important that we discuss about the lives in which this karma is ripening. And also its vipaka. And also the nature of karma. We only talk about karma in general. We didn't analyze what are the karmas, what are the good and bad deeds, and what is their fundamental reasons. We didn't still talk about it. That killing, stealing, and so forth. There are various types of karmas introduced in Buddhist tradition. So here it's a brief explanation, introduction for a quite larger lesson. So this will be more technically written, this paper, but there are some practical aspects that I'll be discussing. So Chetana Chetasika is a mental factor that arises in Javana Chittas, the powerful minds, of a mind stream in which latent defilements are not eradicated, has the ability to produce Janaka Vipaka in future. Janaka Vipaka is producing certain minds and rupa. So this is a very basic fundamental of karma. For a karma to be, first one is, it should be a Chetana, volition, in a Javana Chitta, powerful Chitta. What kind of a mind stream? In a mind stream where latent defilements are not uprooted, it means non-arahant, right? A non-arahant. So they have the ability, these Chetanas, which arise in a powerful Chitta, in a mind stream in which latent defilements are still prevailing, can produce a result in future. These Janaka results are twofold in terms of irreducible elements, that is the Paramatha, in ultimate realities. That is to say, Vipaka Chitta Chetasikas and Kamaja Rupas. That is mind and matter. Certain types of minds and matters. Rupa, matter. Based on the occasion these results arise, occasion, they can be categorized again into two as results at the Patisandhi Kala, rebirth moment where rebirth consciousness arises, and results during the Pavatti Kala. Rebirth, Patisandhi Kala and Pavatti Kala according to the Abhidhamma explanations. So if a chitta arises and passes away, keeps on happening. If this is the first chitta, and if this is the last chitta of a life, so till this moment, the passing away of the last chitta, starting from the arising moment, is called Pavatti Kala, existing period, course of life. Only this moment is called Patisandhi Kala. Patisandhi Kala. Patisandhi Kala means the moment of rebirth, the arising moment of a chitta, first chitta, not the passing away moment. So this moment is called Patisandhi Kala, that is the moment of rebirth. This is called the course of life. Pavatti Kala.
So the moment of rebirth doesn't come into the concept like the existing
Yes.
moment.
Yes.
What about Chuti?
Chuti is, the entire Chuti is Pavatikala. If you want to have a Chutikala, right, you can divide it into 3, but normally we divide it into 2. If you want to get Chutikala, it should be from here.
The arising of Chuti.
No, passing away moment.
The arising of Chuti
Is
passing away.
arising of Chuti will belong to the Pavati. But it's not mentioned, right? This is, we can divide if we make it. Normally it's only twofold. That's how I think. So
That would be threefold. The existing of Chuti and passing away of Chuti is the Chuti, but then the rising is belongs to the Chuti.
sorry. Yeah, okay. I'm taking here the chitta has 2 sub-moments. Exist, arising and passing away.
Okay.
I'm not taking 3 sub-moments. So what I said was, Chutikala is the passing away moment.
The decline.
Decline, yeah. So then, next sentence. Patisandhi Kala or Patisandhi Khana is the arising moment of the Patisandhi Chitta Chetsikas and first Kamaj Rupas in a certain life. After this arising moment, till the passing away of the Chuti Chitta, the period is considered as Pavatikala. Then we come into another very basic fundamental of the tradition. This fundamental is advocated or authorized or authenticated or found officially recognized during a time after the Buddha's passing away and before the Buddhism came to Ceylon, during this period, in a city called Saketa. I'm not saying the fundamental was originated at that time. It would have been a fundamental that would have coming from a very past time, even during the Buddha's time, maybe. But it was found in the commentaries as advocated by the Theras in the city called Saketa. So I would read the quotation. In Saketa, the devotees assembled in hall raised the query: when by one volition kamma is put forth, is there one conception only or different conceptions? It means when one kamma is giving a result, can we have 2 rebirths or only 1 rebirth? Being unable to decide it, they went to ask the Abhidhamma elders, who convinced them by saying, just as from one mango seed only one sprout issues forth, so there is only one conception. Their argument, their point was, with one chetana, one kamma chetana, not a one kamma chetana, one chetana of a chitta can give only one patisandhi. The one day they raised the queries thus: when kamma is put forth by different volitions, are they different conception or is there only one? It means, can many kammas collectively give one rebirth or they give different rebirth? That was the other question. And being unable to decide it, they asked the elders, who convinced them by saying, just as when many mango seeds are sown, many sprouts issue forth, so there are many conceptions. It means the fundamental of the Theravadin is one Chetana brings one Patisandhi, not that many Chetanas bring one Patisandhi, and not one Chetana brings many Patisandhi. So many Chetanas can bring Patisandhis according to the number. So fine thing is, the basic 3 fundamentals are: one Chetana can bring only one Patisandhi, one Chetana cannot bring many Patisandhis, many Chetanas cannot bring one Patisandhi. So this was the basic fundamentals. So this is also, we find this, you cannot find this in a direct sutta taught by the Buddha. This is the fundamental which was said by past elders. who lived before it seems like before the Buddha, Dhamma has reached Sri Lanka and after the Buddha's passing away. Then in the next fundamental, so there is a teaching, direct sutta and also a gatha uttered by a venerable Arahant. Arahant Kanda Sumana has mentioned that having offered one flower to the pagoda of the late Buddha Kassapa, he enjoyed pleasures in heavens for 800 million years. The commentary further states that he was repeatedly born in the Tavatimsa realm. When considering the lifespan of that realm, Venerable Kanda Sumana, the Buddha has mentioned how long the lifespan in the second Tavatimsa realm, which is the second divine realm. Venerable Kanda Sumana has been born in the second divine realm for about 22 times when you divide the number. He was also born in the final life as a human as a result of the same karma. So this is what the Pali says. But there is a direct sutta given by the Buddha with simple terminology, simple explanation. A similar story is mentioned in the Dutiya Aputtaka Sutta, where the Buddha mentions that Aputtaka Setti, a very rich merchant, was born for 7 times in heavens and 7 times in rich human families due to a single offering made to a Pacceka Buddha. Buddha explained this to King Kosala. This person, who after his death he mentioned he was born he mentioned 2 incidents. One Kusala and Akusala incident, things that he did in the past. So because of one dana he gave to a Pacceka Buddha, self-enlightened being, unable to convince others, but though he's a Pacceka Buddha. So he was born 7 times in the heavens and 7 times in rich human families because of one dana. So does these stories not contradict with the notion explained under the Saketa Panha? As a single karma has given more than one rebirth. Because this sutta very clearly states, Buddha mentions, that he was born for 14 times because of one karma. And according to Kanda Sumana Thera's explanation, at least 23 rebirths because of one karma. Commentary on the Dutiya Aputtaka Sutta illustrates this point. This seems like a paradox, but they explains this. They would say the commentarial tradition suggests that this point, has been saying that he was born in heavens in the rich merchant. He was born in the heavens and human realm for 7 times each in heavens and human realms as a result of previous and following kusala chetanas. Because when someone is doing a certain karma, it is not done by one mind process. There are many mind processes happening. So, the javanas of these point processes can give rebirths, right? So, even though he was performing a one wholesome deed as an act, there have been lots of mind processes going on. So all these mind processes can give a rebirth. So that's why the commentaries say, even though, so they still stick to the fundamental mentioned the Saketa Panha. This is a very basic fundamental referred in many commentaries. Most of the places they refer to this. They don't break this fundamental. So the Chetanas of different mind processes while he was doing the karma can give rebirths accordingly. So that was the reason why they were born in many times for giving one dana on one occasion, right? So they would explain it in that way. Therefore, by doing one wholesome or unwholesome deed, one can be born in blissful and woeful realms respectively for many times as a result of many karmic chetanas which arise while doing the deed. So that was the explanation. So then, moreover, there are 4 types of planes in which these karmas will yield their janaka vipaka. Those realms are 4-fold. Apaya, woeful realm. They are 4 in number. Kama Sugati, there are 7 bhumis like 1 human realm and 6 divine realms where sensual pleasure dominates. Then 5 material realms, the Brahmas, there are 16 realms. Arupa Bhumi, immaterial realms with a special jhana. Persons are born without a rupa but live for a long time. There are 4 in number. So this is the Buddhist cosmos according to the literature. So in these 31 realms, you will find 31 here. This is the Buddhist cosmos. So in these realms are the vipakas are produced. Nibbana doesn't belong to them. Nibbana is a state which is beyond this. Beyond doesn't mean in terms of space, which is completely opposite of this nature. So then kammas are manifold. Now these are the place where kamma gets ripened. So before we understood, when a kamma gives a result, rebirth, one chetana can give one rebirth, but they can give many results during the pavati. Right? They can give many results during the pavati. If I couldn't mention that, if you go to the previous page, the second fundamental, in the previous page, second fundamental, another important theory is that one kamma chetana can bring only one patisandhi. There is no limitation for them to bring pavatika vipaka within their respective sphere of producing results. Right? They can bring many pavati vipaka. So then we go to the next page. There are 4 bhumis, and there are kammas are mainly twofold. There are kusala and akusala, wholesome and unwholesome. We will explain. We also mentioned the purity of the mind. Clarity of the mind. Clarity means in terms of removing unwholesome qualities is the basic for wholesome deeds. Right? Sobana, good deeds. Good deeds. Then more ignorance is the base for all the unwholesome deeds. If some action is involved with moha, ignorance, we call it an unwholesome akusala. If a certain action is involved with saddha doesn't mean the belief here. Here means the clarity of the mind. Clarity cleared from unwholesome qualities. Then we call it a sobana. Right? If the defilements are not uprooted, latent defilements, that kamma can bring good results. So we call it a kusala. So there are kusala and akusala kammas. Then kusala kamma is fourfold again. Kama avachara, rupa avachara, arupa avachara, and lokuttara. So therefore, altogether in Abhidhamma analysis we have 21 chittas. So we can 33 kamma chetanas. Akusala kamma is 12. Akusala kamma is a chetana of 12 akusala chittas. Chetana in 12 chittas. Kama avachara kusala kamma is chetana of 8 mahakusala. That's the wholesome deeds by which we do wholesome deeds like normal beings. Rupavachara chetana of Rupavachara kamma is chetana of 5 Rupavachara kusala chittas. Arupavachara kusala kamma is the chetana of 4 Arupavachara kammas. Arupavachara kusala chittas. Please change it. Arupavachara kusala chittas. Kusala chittas. Lokuttara kamma is the chetana of 4 magga chittas. If you count, there will be 33 chetanas. 12 plus 21. Right? 33 chetanas. These 33 chetanas give their results in these respective 31 realms. That is the cause and effect theory in terms of karma in Buddhism. Arupavachara kusala chittas. Right? So these 33 chetanas, chetana is volition, intention in these chittas, the strong power of a mind. This volition force gives their respective results in these 31 realms. Right? In these 31 realms. So here we are not going to explain about these realms, not about these kammas. We are focusing only what sort of vipaka is given by these kammas in their respective realms. That is what we are analyzing. It's mostly a technically, lot of technical terms will be there. Patisandhikala, it means giving a rebirth. These chetana of the akusala chittas, there are altogether 12 chetanas in 12 akusala chittas. Among them, chetana of 11 chittas can give a rebirth in the 4 woeful realms. 4 woeful realms can be given by akusala chitta, except the chetana of uddhacha chitta. Uddhacha chitta is too restless. Because of his restlessness, the quality of the chitta, the energy of the chitta drains, it reduces. So even someone has done certain akusala kammas with uddhacha chitta, uddhacha sampayutta chitta, it is not going to give a rebirth because of its weakness. So that's why we have 11 chetanas, chetana of 11 akusala chittas giving rebirth in 4 woeful realms.
that the chitta also is in term, the vipaka chitta, the rebirth consciousness system, that's upekka sagata santirana chitta. Then pavati kala, during the course of time, these akusala chetana can never give a rebirth in the higher, the blissful abodes. It can give only patisandhi in the woeful abodes, not in the blissful abodes. But these akusala chetanas can give vipaka during the course of life in the blissful abodes as well, like humans, devas, and so forth. So if you look at the explanation, chetana of 12 akusala chittas can produce pavati vipaka in 4 apaya, 7 kama sugati, and 15 rupavachara bhumi except asanya satta. At those moments, 7 akusala vipaka chittas arise accordingly. If mentioned with more specification, 7 akusala vipaka chittas arise in 4 apaya and 7 kama sugati. Right? Like akusala vipaka, chakku, sota, gana, juha, vinyana, when you are seeing unpleasant object and so forth. 4 akusala vipaka chittas, upekka sagata chakku vinyana, upekka sagata sota vinyana, upekka sagata sampatichana, and upekka sagata samtirana arise in 15 rupavachara bhumis except asanya satta. When they are looking into the human world, when they see some bad objects, these chittas arise in there. Chetana of 12 akusala chittas can produce kamajarupa in 4 arupa apayas during the patisandhi moment and cause of pavati. So that is how technically we would say these chittas, their production. Now we come to the vipaka of kamavachara kusala kamma with respect to realms. Now here there is something that we have to explain, which I have explained briefly, partially in a lecture for Sabda, but I will be explaining again because it is necessary fully. So patisandhi kala. Now we do good deeds like giving dana, supporting others, or practicing sila, sharing merits, teaching dhamma. So these kind of good things, deeds we do. Then these deeds can give a good rebirth in certain realms. Chetana of kamavachara kusala chittas that have the ability to yield a rebirth can produce patisandhi vipaka in 7 kama sugati bhumis. They cannot take you to the rupavachara, arupavachara realm. For that you should have a very high concentration. They can give results in the human realm and the divine realms, in the divine 6 divine realms, as a patisandhi. On those occasions, kusala vipaka, upekka sagata santirana chitta, or one of the 8 mahavipaka chittas arise as the patisandhi chitta accordingly. So when talking about the kamavachara kammas, that means our normal wholesome deeds, not the jhanas, not the akusalas, normal wholesome deeds, by which we teach dhamma, study dhamma, give dana, practice sila, practice meditation. So these chittas, so when they have, that gives patisandhi vipaka, there is another phenomenon to be considered. That is their association with wisdom of karma vipaka, jnana, sampayutta, vipayutta bhava, and their inferiority and superiority. So these are the 2 things. So these 2 things we have to consider, especially regarding the patisandhi vipaka, but also regarding pavati vipaka. Not only patisandhi, right? You can change there. Patisandhi vipaka and pavati vipaka both. So we have to consider these 4 aspects of the karma. The handout I have mentioned that gives patisandhi vipaka. When talking about the kamavachara kammas that give patisandhi vipaka, there is another phenomenon to be considered. Yeah, we can leave it as it, okay, patisandhi vipaka, because they are the strong kammas. So now, when we, for example, this is the moment we do the kamma, for instance. Okay, the kamma, we do the kamma here. So before the kamma, we arrange, we get ready, for example. And after the kamma, we did. This is the moment of execution. In Pali we call munchana. This is called Kubba, previous, Apara. So we can say Para. How to spell it? You are right. Para. Yeah. Then middle. That's it. So during the execution, before the execution, after the execution. These are good deeds we are talking, not the bad deeds. Right? Giving a dana, for example, we think. So for giving a dana, we have to gather things, we have to plan how to do the dana. And then after giving the dana, we consider about the dana, what we have done. So these are the 3 moments. So sometimes we don't bother about it, what we have given, right? So still, we analyze it in 3 ways. If, for example, before the dana, and while before the dana, we have certain objectives. For example, some may have bad objectives to show off, to defeat others in wholesome deeds. If we do with such objectives, it means our mind is occupied by unwholesome thoughts before. So wholesome thoughts are there, that is why always that we give a dana. Kusala is there. Wholesome is kusala, ku. But sometimes we also have akusala, bad objectives. In some cases, we don't have that akusala, it's only kusala. Good kusala, always. Good objectives. Right? So I'll draw it again here, akusala. Here is kusala. While giving the dana, for example, if we are talking about a dana, so now we are preparing the things, we are gathering the things, buying the things to offer. See, these are all previous preparations. We invite the monk, so invite the ones who are receiving, if it's a beggar or a one visitor, whoever, we invite him. And after he's been sitting, we can say, now we are starting to offer it. So till we finish the offering, the entire period is considered as the middle. Right? Entire period is considered as the middle. So during that time, sometimes, we have the kusala chitta, we do it with wholesome mind. Sometimes, time to time, while we are doing, in between, akusala chittas may also arise. For some, it's always kusala. Right? It means, for example, too sleepy, right? While giving the dana. Or it's angry about the not pleased with the monks who came. Or he's worrying about what he's giving, right? Or some kind of a nivarna has obstructed him, like hindrances. So while he's performing the deed, a certain or several akusalas are interrupting him. So this is called in between akusalas are happening. Right? So then, sometime after the dana, we normally are happy. Normally we are happy, okay, we are happy that we serve someone. This is a kusala chitta. Right? Normally we all give kusala chitta after dana. Sometimes, some may regret, oh, I shouldn't have done it. Right? Sometimes get some worrying thoughts. For some, no, they are very happy about what they did. So this was the wrong objectives. This is while doing the dana, doing the wholesome deed, our mind is occupied. Not just one or two unwholesome thought. This is occupied. It's like it affects your wholesome deed. Then it's just not a one regret thought. It's like worrying, really worrying, because that the Sutta Buddha mentioned one person gave a dana to an ascetic, Pacceka Buddha. He gave it very pleasantly, but afterwards, on the way going to his work, he thought, "Oh, I shouldn't have given to that poor person. If I have given it to my slaves, he would work. At least he would work and benefit me." So he really regretted about his wholesome deed. So likewise, these are regretting mostly. Then this is wrong objectives. This is regarding in between. The mind is not well restrained, not very guarded while we are doing the wholesome deed. So the thing is, if any of the places, now this is the point, it's not necessary to have akusala in all the three cases. In any of the places, if akusalas dominate our mind while we do the wholesome deed, this deed is called omaka. Omaka is inferior. If the deed was done without such akusalas interrupting, we call it superior. Then we have another fact to consider according to the traditional teachings. So then we mentioned doing a deed with a comprehensive understanding, a wholesome deed doing with a comprehensive understanding. Understanding about the deed is twofold. We know our actions, karma, can give two types of results according to the teaching. One is the present sphere results. For example, by giving a dana, surely we are supporting the receiver. His hunger will be reduced. He'll be able to, if he's a monk, he'll be able to practice properly. And we are doing a very good deed, like a pleasant, nice deed, admirable deed, supporting the others. And also it will sometimes affect the person also in a beneficial way. He will get a lot of happiness by doing such a thing. So normally some psychologists say, do help others, so it will increase your happiness. Be compassionate, it will increase your happiness. So they always have good effects to our lives. These are the present sphere, effects to the present sphere by a certain action. So understanding about this is also a wisdom. And also, when we are doing a wholesome deed, good deed, for example, making a charity, we will always concern how we would do it in the most effective way, how the offering is not wasted. If you are offering to a poor country, a rich person, they would consider how the money is not going into the pockets of the rulers, how it is really distributed to the poor people. So this has to be considered. Otherwise, our dana is not effective. So likewise, finding the effective means that my donation will be fully contributing to the welfare of the others. They are all good understandings. So in such cases, wisdom faculty works. That is called wisdom, jnana, understanding. Proper understanding about proper execution, understanding about the effectiveness, making it a very effective deed. Then according to the teachings, we have another aspect of karma. When we do such a good deed, it would bring special results in this very life, maybe, or in the future lives as a vipaka. So this is called, then we call that mysterious aspect of a karma, which is beyond the human normal observation. So someone understands this. I'm not talking about wishing for a result. Understanding that this karma would have such an effect in the future. So this is also a wisdom. So there are two types of wisdoms regarding action. Wisdom about the effects to the present sphere, wisdom about the effects regarding the vipaka, maybe in this life or the future life. So when a karma is done, if someone does with a comprehensive understanding, sampajana kata. Sampajana means comprehensive understanding, overall understanding. To have an overall understanding, the doer should be aware, should know that this karma have two types of effects. It is not necessary that you always consider about it. If someone has a basic understanding about such a phenomenon, when he does such a deed, that deed is considered as sampajana kata. Overall understanding is there. If someone doesn't partially understands the effects of this deed, they are truly good effective to this life, to the receiver and to the doer. It will surely have benefits to the mind of the doer, one who donated. It will give happiness. It will give the fame, everything. But if it doesn't understand this phenomenon of karma, vipaka, we say, according to the Buddhist tradition, they would call it is not a comprehensive understanding. So karma is divided, a partial understanding is there. So karma is divided into two based on this comprehensive understanding. So if someone do an action without the understanding of the second aspect of karma, karma giving vipaka, he may have only the understanding of the effects of the present sphere. That karma is not considered as sampajana kata. Wisdom does arise in these karmas. It is not necessary that wisdom doesn't arise. When someone manages properly, effective means, supporting the receiver, finding proper ways, increase the efficacy of the deed. So these are all done with wisdom. So we have to be careful to say that the deeds are done with wisdom. There is wisdom involved in such deeds. Only thing is, some people may not understand the phenomenon of karma, vipaka. So we call such karmas asampajana kata. So wisdom is lacking, we call, in such deeds. And some deeds, the wisdom is present. So we are called jnana. So this, when the wisdom faculty doesn't means mere panya. That is the point I want to say. Wisdom faculty means that, he knows that the karma has another effect than what it gives effects in the present sphere. So then these karmas are normally explained as jnana sampayutta or tihetuka. They are explained as vihetuka. It doesn't mean. So according to that, you will think only a person who has the understanding about karma and its results could have a jnana sampayutta chitta. No. Wisdom is a very broad sphere. For example, scientists, mathematicians, anyone who is skilled in a certain subject, he comes into the proficiency or efficiency only because of wisdom. A doctor is able to perform his occupation properly because of wisdom. So wisdom can be found not only in Buddhist aspects, in many other fields. So the thing here, when we talk about the karma and results, what we are talking about wisdom is exclusively about the vipaka, the understanding about the phenomenon of karma. So we say, in terms of having the understanding about the phenomenon of karma, if such understanding is there, we call it jnana sampayutta. If such understanding is not there, we call it jnana vipayutta. So then it is not also necessary that you always think about this karma is going to give results while doing the dana. if someone has such a understanding, regular understanding, when he does a good deed, that wisdom, we call that wisdom is present in him. So therefore, when we say the lack of wisdom here, doesn't mean that the person has done the deed with a jnana vipayutta chitta. It is mean there is a lacking of wisdom about understanding about the phenomenon of the karma. Because here we are talking about a comprehensive understanding. A person who has no faith in karma vipaka can do karmas with wisdom, how to bring it into effective means. Wisdom is there, but if there is no wisdom about the karma and vipaka. So within the tradition, we consider it as asampajana kata. So then this diagram is, so therefore we have 4 types of karma, avachara, kusala, karmas. I'll read this paragraph. A wholesome deed done with the understanding and belief that this act would bring a pleasant result in future is called sampajana kata karma. A kusala karma done without this understanding and belief is called asampajana kata karma. Normally we would say that sampajana kata karma is jnana sampayukta and asampajana kata karma is jnana vipayukta. Albeit the fact that within the tradition the karma has thus been designated, it should be noted that wisdom can arise in sampajana kata karma. Asampajana kata. Please change it. Can arise in put a asampajana kata karmas. That is for the sake of effective and proper execution of the deed. For instance, a person who do not have faith in the phenomenon of karma vipaka makes a charity. While performing his admirable deed, he may consider about the means that would bring more benefits to the receiver and less wastage. Such organizing can only be done with wisdom. Panindriya. Notwithstanding the fact that wisdom is present, such a karma is not designated as sampajana kata. Why is that? Because he doesn't have the understanding of the phenomenon. That is the only reason. This is a different categorization. It's not just the panya. We should not say that panya is only regarding the karma and vipaka. Why? Sampajana kata means an act done with comprehensive understanding according to the tradition. As mentioned before, there are 2 types of effects of an intentional act. Effects in the present sphere and results of the present and future sphere. In the given simile, the donor is well aware of the beneficial effects of his charity, especially to the receiver. But as he does not understand the functioning of the phenomenon of karma vipaka, his understanding is not inclusive. In other words, not comprehensive to be called sampajana kata. So that is then within the tradition, sampajana kata karma is said to be done with 4 jnana sampayutta kusala chittas, whereas asampajana kata karma is said to be done with 4 jnana vipayutta kusala chittas. Here the term jnana refers to the wisdom which understands the phenomenon of karma and vipaka. Eventually, we also term sampajana kata karma as tihetuka karma and asampajana kata karma as dvihetuka karma. But it doesn't mean that when someone does a karma without understanding of karma vipaka, his mind is not occupied by any wisdom. No. This is the lacking of wisdom about the phenomenon is what is referred here. So then we go to the next fundamental, explaining about then the inferiority and superiority of karma vachara karma is determined based on few facts which I explained. I'll just read it. Inferior karmas. If a karma is done with wrong motives, such as to show off, to defeat others in wholesome deeds, or to look down upon others, such deeds become omaka, inferior, because the motivation is not good. Then if hindrances occupy the mind time to time while the act is being done, such karma is also called omaka. So then the next point. After the karma is done, if the doer regrets about his wholesome deed, the kusala karma is considered as omaka. Then superior karmas. If a karma was done without wrong motives, such as showing off, defeating others in wholesome deeds and looking down upon others, with a mind free from hindrances, and if the doer does not regret upon his deed, such a wholesome deed is considered as superior. So then, based on the above facts, we have 4 types of karma, avachara, kusala karmas. inferior wholesome, duhetuka omaka, inferior wholesome deeds done without understanding or believing in the phenomena of kama vipaka. Duhetuka ukutta, superior wholesome deed done without understanding or believing in phenomena of kama vipaka. The tihetuka omaka, inferior wholesome deed done with understanding of or believing the phenomenon of kama vipaka. Tihetuka ukutta kama, superior wholesome deed done with understanding or believing in the phenomenon of kama vipaka. The following is how foregone 4 types of kama avachara kusala kamas yield their results in the respective realms. So these, how to say, omaka, how duhetuka omaka, ukutta, tihetuka omaka, ukutta would give results in the respective realms are being explained here. I'll just read them. Patisandhika, we're giving a rebirth. Chetana of duhetuka omaka, it is the weakest kamma. It has no understanding about the kama vipaka and also inferior because of wrong motives and so forth. Gives a patisandhi with the kusala vipaka upekka sahagata santi. It's a weak human patisandhi or a divine, lower divine patisandhi. Weak person. It's weak means maybe he has defects in his body, maybe he has defects in his understanding, intellectual capacities. Sometimes a retarded person, we call it. Chetana of Dihetuka, Ukutta Kusala and Tihetuka Omaka Kusala. It means superior karmas without understanding, inferior karmas with understanding. They both give the similar results. With one of the Jnana Vipayutta Vipaka, Mahavipaka Chittas. But there is a difference in their level, in their abilities. Chetana of Tihetuka Ukutta Kusalas produce, give the rebirth with one of the 4 Jnana Sampayutta Mahavipaka Chitta, the superior rebirth. Then during the Pavarti Kala, also there are some points that Chetana, I'll skip that point. And then we go into the, how to say, next page. Vipaka of Rupavachara Kamma with respect to realms. Next page, the Jhanas. Jhanas. If someone has done Jhanas, he will be born in the Brahma realms. Right? But not all Jhanas are equal. Jhanas have different levels. So mostly with regard to the rebirth, jhana is considered, have to be considered also inferior, middle and superior. Level of jhana. In Kamavachara Kusala we have inferior and superior only. Jhana we have inferior, middle and superior. So in terms of giving patisandhi, inferior means jhana which was produced with low zeal, chanda, low effort, virya, low chitta, and low wisdom. Lower wisdom. So, of the person, if these faculties, chanda, chitta, virya, vimansa, iddipada, are lower, his jhana is considered lower jhana. If someone has middle level of iddipada, his jhana is considered middle. If someone has superior level of jhana, iddipada, his jhana is considered higher. So there is another way of considering depending on the mastery over jhana. A jhana which was not mastered, just attained, is called hina, which is in the middle level of mastery is called majjhima. Jhana with higher level of mastery is called panita. But with regard to the rebirth, mastery does not matter. What matters is what is the level of the iddipada in producing this jhana. So if a jhana is produced, even you attain the mastery, higher mastery, but gain the jhana with low level of iddipada, that is still considered as a hina jhana. Right? So there are 2 ways to consider the level of jhana, depending on the mastery and depending on the factors upon which you produce. There are 4 factors you need to attain such higher qualities. That are chanda, chitta, virya, and vimansa. A great zeal is necessary, desire. Then great effort. The mind should be inclined towards that goal. And someone should have wisdom to understand what to do in achieving such a task. Without wisdom, we cannot do it. But someone may reach that level with one of the predominant factors. Like one may have extra effort, extra zeal, extra mind is always inclined, or extra wisdom. So one quality may dominate in others, in some person. So with these qualities you attain the jhana. So those factors for the jhana, reasons for the jhana, based on their intensity. So jhana is categorized as low, inferior, middle and superior. So Chetana of 5 Rupavachara Kusalas produce their respective vipakas at the moment of Patisandhi and cause of Pavati. In Pavati, Rupavachara Kusalas arise as Bhavanga Chitta and Itti Chitta. Chetana of 5 Rupavachara Kusala Chittas produce Kamaja Rupas in 16 Rupavachara Brahma realms respectively during the Patisandhi moment and cause of Pavati. Because Chitta is produced in 15 except the Asanya Satta, Rupa can be produced in all 16. As mentioned in Paramattha Deepani, and also this is mentioned in the commentary literature, jhanas that are with inferior Chanda, Virya, Chitta or Vimansa are called Hina Jhana or Paritta Jhana. Jhanas with middle level of Chanda, Virya, Chitta, Vimansa are called Majjhima Jhana. Jhanas with superior Chanda, Virya, Chitta, Vimansa are called Panita Jhana. So then I give the list. If the first jhana of low level would give in a specific realm, first jhana of middle level would give in a specific realm. So this much of analysis is found in the literature. So this is regarding the Rupavachara jhana. Then we go to the next page. The last fundamental of that topic, Chetana of 5th jhana, when Chitta Viraga Bhavana has been accomplished. Some people wish for a life without the mind, right? As they come, produces only Kamaja Rupas at the moment of Patisandhi and cause of Pavati in Asanya Satta realm. So then we come to another type of jhana, immaterial jhana. Immaterial jhana means jhana which is attained by overcoming the desire towards the Rupa. It's a very higher level of jhana. If someone attains this jhana, he will not now. If someone has a normal jhana, Rupavachara jhana, he will be born as a Brahma. In the Brahma realm, according to our teachings, they don't have sensual desires. They are living mostly in meditative absorptions. They are very secluded beings, Brahmas. But there is another specific realm called Arupavachara world, in which you don't have any form, Rupa. Brahmas do have a form, which is subtler than the Devas. But the Arupa realm, there is no form. Only Chitta exists. And this is produced by a very special kind of meditation. To attain that meditation, first you have to develop the normal jhanas, which I mentioned now, Rupavachara jhanas. They are based on certain Rupa, certain object. Some of them are, mostly they are based on objects, like for example, kasinas and all. So then you have to overcome the attachment to all the Rupa form and then go into another higher level of jhana, which is called Arupa jhanas. They will produce a life without the Rupa, without the form. So there are such 4 jhanas and such 4 realms, respective realms. That is what is mentioned here. Then we come to the last topic, Vipaka of Lokuttara Kamma, right, with respect to the realm. So Lokuttara Magga Chetana gets ripened as Palachittupada. Palachittas are identical with their Magga Chitta in terms of Vedana and Jnanangas, right? In Chetana, Vedana, they are same feeling, they have a similar feeling and similar number of jhana factors. Lokuttara Magga Chetana produces its results immediately after its existence, hence called Anantara Kamma. Magga Chetana can bring only its results, Palachittupada, only during the Pavati Kala, not at the Patisandhi. I would say Lokuttara Kamma would never give a Patisandhi because Lokuttara Kamma is against the Patisandhi. This is the attainment, Magga Phala, the supramundane path. You get rid of rebirth because of it. They are not going to produce rebirth. The other Kammas can give a rebirth, but this is not giving this is cutting off the reasons for rebirth. Then Magga Chetana can bring only results during the Pavati. It will never give a rebirth. Actually, Lokuttara, not Okuttara, Lokuttara Magga stop the rebirth in samsara. Chetana for Magga Chittas brings forth their respective Palachittas during the Pavati Kala in 7 Kama Sugati Bhumi and 15 Rupavachara Bhumi and 4 Arupa Bhumi. And it's said with more specification. Chetana of Sotapatti Magga Chitta brings forth Sotapatti Palachittupada in 7 Kama Sugati Bhumi, 10 Rupavachara Bhumi, except Suddhavasa realm and Asanya Satta realm, because they are only Anagamis are born, right? Then in Arupa Bhumis. The same with Sakadagami Chetana. Anagami Magga Chetana can bring in Palachitta, Anagami Palachitta, in 7 Kama Sugati Bhumi, in 7 Sama Sugati Bhumis, because after you attain, you can still attain the Anagami Pala. 15 Rupa Bhumi except Asanya Satta in Arupavachara Bhumi. Chetana of Arahatta Maggachitta brings forth Arahatta Palachittupada in 7 Kamasugati Bhumi, in 15 Rupavachara Bhumi, except Asana Satta, and in 4 Arupavachara Bhumi. So finally, another 2 fundamentals. According to the commentary of Sabya Sutta in Sutta Nipata, all the Te Bhumaka Kammas, it means Te Dhatuka Kammas, it means Lokiya Kammas, are called Dukkha Vepaka, since they produce the suffering of the existence of samsara. We normally say Kusala brings happiness, Akusala brings suffering, but if it is mundane, it's giving a rebirth. Right? If it is given a rebirth or Vipaka in samsara, these are all dukkha, suffering, cause for suffering. These are suffering. Vipaka of Lokiya Kammas belong to the noble truth of suffering. So they are called Dukkha Vepaka. So in terms of ultimate realities, we would say Kusala brings happiness, Akusala brings suffering. In terms of noble truths, Kusala, Akusala both bring suffering. That is what is mentioned here. On the other hand, Vipaka of Lokuttara Kamma is not categorized as suffering within the tradition. When it comes to the classification of 4 noble truths, Palachittupada are free from the 4 noble truths. Sabcha in English. So these are some, information that I would like to share, especially regarding the Kamma of aspect giving the results. So here we discussed very basic fundamentals. All are fundamentals in the tradition. One is, according to the tradition, one Chetana can give 1 rebirth, not 2 rebirths, so many rebirths, and not many Chetana can give 1 rebirth. And after that, 1 Kamma, because many Chittas arise, 1 Kamma means 1 act of Kamma can produce many rebirths because there are many Chetanas arising. And then also we discussed as fundamental Kusala Kammas, Kamavachara Kusala Kammas are 4-fold based on 2 reasons: inferiority and superiority, and the understanding about the phenomenon of Kamma and Vipaka, and what sort of rebirths they give. And Rupavachara Kusala Kamma is defined as inferior, middle and superior based on the Iddhipada with which they were attained. And finally, Lokuttara Kamma also we analyzed after Rupavachara Kamma. So these are the points that I would like to discuss. So far we have analyzed Kamma in very detail within the tradition. I will be continuing these lectures in the next week also. If you have any questions.
I have 3 questions.
Yes.
So the first one, talking about Sotapanna Maggachitta.
Yeah.
So from my understanding, the Maggachitta is cut off the rebirth with these producings, right?
After the 7th life.
Let's say, okay, not according to this, from my understanding, let's say when you attain a Sotapanna, the Magga is cut off the bridge that brings you to the 4-hour, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So for this one right here, 10.151.1, that
Wait, can you tell the number again?
page 68.
Right.
And when talk about the Chetana of Sotapanna Maggachitta, I'm a little confused, except they can bring forth in the 7 rounds, let's say Kama,
Sugati?
on all that, except for the next 5
Suddhavasa.
and the 4 Arupa Bhumi.
No, except 5 Suddhavasa and Asanya Satta. Please except Asanya Satta and Suddhavasa. Oh, sorry, Asanya Satta is omitted. If you look into the next line, next fundamental, actually I copy pasted it and one is missing. Except Asanya Satta and 5 Suddhavasa. Please correct it. Yeah, I listen to your question. There's one mistake. Sorry. First we will correct that. So in that fundamental, what is the number? Because my numbers are different.
Okay, but the one table is 1.1.1.
10.15.
1.1.
151.1. Okay. So here the last in 10 Rupa Bhumi, right? In 10 Rupa Bhumi except Asanya Satta. You can see it in the next line. Except Asanya Satta and 5 Suddhavasa.
Asanya Satta.
And for Arupa Bhumi,
Asanya Satta. Wait, I'll come to that. Asanya Satta. And 5 Suddhavasa. No. Yes, and Arupa. Yeah, Arupa is not. In 7 Kama Sugati, in 2 Rupa Bhumi, in 10 Rupa Bhumi, and in 4 Arupa Bhumi. That's what I want to say.
okay.
Right? Except is related to the 10 Rupa, because when in normally when we say except, we have the idea that there are 16 Rupa Bhumi. Right? 16 out of 16 we come into 10 minus 1 and 5.
Okay.
Right?
So
That is a way of Abhidhamma saying, not
So
in
it does happen in the 4 Arupa Bhumi?
Yes, can.
Okay. So in the 10 Rupa Bhumi, that would be
Asanya Satta and Suddhavasa is accepted. Because Asanya Satta doesn't have mind, Suddhavasa only after become Anagami you are born there.
Oh, okay. So but my understanding would be except all 5 in the 4 Arupa
No.
Bhumi.
That's why I put a comma. Right? As a comma.
But it's after the except.
Except 5 Suddhavasa, Asanya Satta.
It's better.
It's
bracket.
Because if you put a bracket there, it's better.
Okay, so that's that.
Put brackets between Asan except and this.
Okay, and then the second question, we talk about the jhana.
Yes.
I'm a little bit curious about the intensities of the jhana because for a person to attain the jhana, at least the 5 factors of jhana has to work together.
Yes.
And it gets to a certain type of jhanas, and then when you keep the intensities of it, the concentration keep on
Increasing.
then you go to the second jhana, not the first jhana, or the second jhana. But then within one jhana, you're talking about the intensity of the level intensities of one jhana. Let's say the first jhana, there would be
3 levels.
inferior, middle, and things. How is it that, because all these factors have to get to a certain point of intensity for the jhana to happen?
This is not talking about the 5 factors.
I'm not talking about the 5 factors. I'm talking about Chanda,
Chitta,
Virya, Chitta, and
Vimamsa.
Vimamsa.
Yeah. These are called Pubbhavi Sankhara. Pubbhavi Sankhara means which are necessary to accomplish a jhana. Right? So someone needs any of these to come into the jhana, but there can be levels of them achieving them. It's like, if for example, if this is the lowest level necessary, some may achieve it with a higher level, some may with a higher level. So this Pubbhavi Sankhara means the necessary factors to attain the jhana. So based on their level, the jhana is classified in such a way. It means some would have these necessary factors only to a very lower level, like required level. Some would put more effort and do it with more force, more power of the mind. Some would do it in an extreme level. So even though they attain the same jhana, the first jhana, how they achieve that level is different. So based on is always conditioned. So because the conditions are powerful, the result also is considered as powerful.
So when they reach to that level, isn't it the characteristic of jhana have changed or as well?
Yes, there is a change.
So if there's a change, would it be considered a different jhana, but not within the same
No, jhana is different. You can consider it as a different jhana in terms of the level. But in terms of jhana factors, they are the same. In terms of jhana, for example, first jhana has 5 factors, like vitakka, vichara, piti, sukha, ekagrata. So this jhana may have this level of some have a different, like power, quality may be different. So when we say classify the jhanas, we classify based on the jhana factors. But still, as you said, if you ask, are these 3 jhanas same? I would say not the same. Why? Because they were produced by different level of causes. When the causes change, the quality of the effect also changes.
So, if I understand you correctly, then when we say that, you know, a certain level of the 5 factors are necessary to attain a jhana, like let's say the first jhana.
First 4 factors, yeah. 4 factors.
So then you were saying that like that is the minimum threshold.
Minimum, yes.
To get the first jhana, and then in this model, then you could say that each of the jhanas we could say has 3 sub-levels.
Yes, 3 sub-levels, exactly, yes.
And the minimum threshold is just to hit the first sub-level.
Yeah, exactly. Correct. So therefore, when you hit the first sub-level, you will born in a certain realm. If you get a jhana with another level, you will be born in a different realm. If you have in the highest level, you will be born in a higher realm. So that's why we have 3 realms to be born because of the same jhana, because their sub-level is different.
So with that logic, would it be possible to argue that for you to get to the second jhana, then all 4 factors of the second jhana would have to be the highest level of the first jhana?
Would have to be
So all these 5 factors will have 3 levels: the first
Right.
level, second levels, and the third level.
Right.
So this is
No, not necessary. Not necessary. Because after you hit the jhana, right? After you hit the jhana, there is the process. Again, you have to start. You give up the attachment towards this. After you achieve is achieved. After you have achieved is achieved. Only thing is, they have different levels of the jhana, the sub-levels. From that level what you have, you can progress further. You don't need to come into this level to progress further.
But then I wouldn't say the concentration, but then the intensifies of all these.
But the thing is, when you go to the second jhana, when you go to the second jhana, you overcome the very main factor. It's like this. Even though this is okay, then the next jhana you have vichara, piti, sukha, ekagrata. So then it also has 3 levels. So this is always higher than this, because you have to overcome a jhana factor. So this is regarding the necessary factors to hit the jhana. So from here you go to another different level. So from here to here there is another path. So it's not necessary that you come into this level and go forward.
So as long as you attain that jhana and then
Yes.
you get out of that jhana.
Actually, if you attain a jhana with this level, you cannot bring it to this level because it's already attained.
But I thought that level would be the mastery of.
No, that's what I say. Mastery is different. If you attain a jhana with this, with that same attainment, like you can go and in and come out, you cannot increase it to here. Jhana is like a result. You have attained it. Now you cannot increase the level after you attain the jhana. So if you want to change, from the beginning you have to change. So after you attain, now from here to here, you have to master again. Now here, if you get the higher intensity, you may come into this level. It's a possibility.
So if I understand you correctly, what you mean by change at the beginning, it does mean that let's say I lose the attainment of the first jhana at the first level and then repeat the whole process over again with more chanta,
Yes,
more efforts
exactly.
and everything, and I can go to the third level.
Possibility, yeah, I think. After you attain, you cannot change. It's not the mastery.
Okay. So last question, we talk about the 4 kinds of kusala actions or
Kusala actions.
kusala actions. So I'm just curious, when you talk about wisdom, the wisdom in terms of with wisdom is only talks about the fully comprehension of karma and its results, not talking about the understanding of how the work would be carried out to get the best result within that karma does.
Yes, exactly.
So let's say reverse the situation where a person, so this in the example it talk about the person know how to carry out the work to get the best result for the receiver without the understanding of karma and karma result. So now the situation reversed. Let's say I understand perfectly about the fully comprehensions of karma and its results and so on and so forth. However, I do not have any ability or the wisdom to know how to do the work right. would that consider, how would that give the result in that sense? Does it make sense?
It's a very good question. I would think and answer later for that question. I would need time for that.
Okay. And just for elaboration, just
Yeah.
curiosity, you know like how in the Western world,
Yeah.
when I go to give out, let's say, money to the homeless, right? And
Yeah.
my friend would be like, do not give it to them. They're just going to use that money for alcohol or drugs or something like
Okay.
that. And that would be very similar case where I just give you the examples where I understand that giving is good, and then if we view the result and so on and so forth. However, I do not know the understanding where this person would use this for food or for drugs. And that's one of the questions.
Okay. So it means that effectiveness, that whether the person would harm
It's
and
questions, so
Yeah.
one is
Yeah.
related to that and the other one.
So in other case, if I say like, if I give something to a person with a wholesome mind, he may use it for a different purpose, right? It is not going to affect your karma. The karma would be like you have given with the proper, genuine mind. And sometimes we may have a doubt whether he will use it or not, and it is also not going to affect your karma. But if you purposely clearly knows that this money is going to be used for a bad purpose, for example, like for killing someone or to do something, but still, I would call my motive is to give this what I have. This is still considered as a dana, but it is advisable that better to consider if you clearly knows that this money is going to be used for some bad purpose. We have to consider of giving or not giving. But even you knows that it is going to be done. But if I just ignore that part and just giving a person as a charity, according to the phenomenon of karma, because still he is giving up something which is which is not harmful in that sense. Because this same money can be used for harm or not harm. That depends on the person. So if we are giving it with a wholesome mind to support the person, that still you accumulate a karma. But if he clearly knows that it is going to be used for a wrong purpose, that is a part that as a Buddhist that we have to consider. That is if you are very clear. But if, for example, someone in Asian, some countries also we have that like don't give to the beggars. They would get more lazier and they would not be more effective. These kinds of arguments are there. So there are actual positive aspects of this argument. At the same time, if someone gives with a pleasant mind to support the person, this will still consider as a good, because kusala is now the next thing is the quality whether something is wholesome or unwholesome is basically decided. Because last time in the first lecture for karma we explained wholesome karmas in terms of the pleasant sphere. A good karma can give a good pleasant effect and also unpleasant effects. Akusala karma can also give pleasant effects and unpleasant effects. So, for example, if I say like a normal explanation, a government kills a terrorist leader. This, in terms of the country, this will give lots of pleasant effects to the country. So, but according to the teaching, these are akusala karma. So, therefore, whether a karma is kusala or akusala is not decided. Buddhist explanation is not decided based on the effects it gives in the pleasant sphere. It means we do good deed, it may have pleasant and unpleasant effects both. We do a bad deed, it may have pleasant and unpleasant. I gave it a lot of examples. Even Buddha has explained this with various teachings. But still, kusala, a deed with this, whether it's wholesome or unwholesome, is specifically decided based on the quality of the emotions that you have. If something is mixed with ignorance, this is akusala. If it's done with a clear mind, this is a wholesome deed. So that is how in Buddhist teachings we decide whether something is wholesome or unwholesome, not based on the effects that it would give. But if you are talking about the second sphere of effect, vipaka, Buddha clearly mentions, it is impossible, monks, that a wholesome deed would give a bad effect in terms of vipaka, the mysterious effect. If it is impossible that an akusala karma would give a pleasant effect. But if you are talking about the pleasant sphere, kusala kammas may also have good and pleasant and unpleasant effects. Akusala kammas may also have pleasant and unpleasant effects. That is why some wholesome deeds Buddha has prohibited for monks in terms of vinaya. Some wholesome deeds he has prohibited because it can lead for some problems. So therefore, he has obstructed some even wholesome deed. He has said, don't do it because this can have unpleasant effects. It might have some unpleasant effects. So therefore, karma is not decided whether it's kusala or akusala based on its effects, exclusively based on its quality, whether it's a wholesome qualities and unwholesome qualities, intention, volition, our motive.
Can you give some of the example where the wholesome deed was Buddha would not let the monk do?
For example, if you say preaching Dhamma to a female without a male, that is prohibited. Preaching Dhamma is a preaching Dhamma. We go into the Pali, we say it should be in Pali according to our tradition. So Buddha has mentioned alone, like without any other male, preaching Dhamma can have misunderstandings because there was a misunderstanding about a monk preaching to a female, and so because of these unpleasant effects, he prohibited these things.
Even in the open space.
Yes, if there should be a certain distance, right? Within 12 hatha pasa. Yes, the rule goes like that. So likewise, sometimes, and that is also for bhikkhunis, right? For a male. Okay, so it's like for both bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, there are some wholesome deeds Buddha has prohibited for the sake of because it can have some unpleasant effects.
So just one more curiosity in terms of giving. So let's say in the taking dana, right?
Yeah.
And so let's say I have only one piece of bread.
Yeah.
And there's a virtuous monk, then there's a virtuous nun.
Okay.
Okay? Given that the monks is more virtuous than the nun, but they're both virtuous, not just one is just a little bit higher than the other. So, but the monk, he doesn't need it. But the nun, she would need that bread. Okay? So for me, I would think that, okay, giving that to the monk would yield me a better result than give it to the nun. However, the monk would have, because he's virtuous, so then he would have a lot of, like donations and everything. So he clearly doesn't need it. So in that case, the karma, you would be better if I give it to the monk. But the necessity would be better to give it to the nun.
So you can decide.
So in that case, how would the jnana be?
That's why the main aspect of here is knowing the phenomenon of the karma, jnana, understanding what phenomenon. Other jnana plays a very minor role to decide whether it's jnana sampayutta or vipayutta. For example, I'll give an answer next time about having thought about it. But my quick instinct is even someone has not very clear understanding about these ways of effectiveness. The jnana is more emphasis is given to because it's given to the understanding about the phenomenon of the karma. It's the phenomenon of the karma. It's like it would give result. If someone has this understanding, it is enough to be considered as a sampajana kata, right? Because the effective ways that it is very difficult to judge, right? Some may consider it. There are many criteria to judge on that. So we don't have all the full understanding. What is the condition of the person? What is happening behind the scene? We don't know these things. So therefore, to decide whether he does it with full effectiveness or not is very difficult to judge. So therefore, karma should be, to my understanding, karma becomes sampajana kata as long as he understands the karma vipaka phenomenon. So okay, we'll conclude the class.